Think of the most annoying, nosy person you know. The one who pulls you aside at a party to whisper that Sarah is secretly dating Dave, or that the new guy at work definitely lied on his resume. We all claim to absolutely hate gossip. We act like it is this completely toxic, bottom-feeding behavior reserved solely for trashy reality television shows in high school cafeterias. But I am here to tell you that without that annoying rumor-spreading instinct, you would not be sitting in a climate-controlled room right now watching internet videos. You would probably be freezing in a damp cave somewhere, picking lice out of your cousin's hair while listening for the footsteps of a giant predatory cat. Gossip is not a bug in the human operating system. It is the core feature. It is the ultimate evolutionary survival tool that allowed early humans to conquer the entire planet, build massive towering cities, and fundamentally trust people they had never even met in their entire lives. To understand why this is true, we have to rewind the clock way back. Imagine you are an early hominid wandering around the African savanna a couple of million years ago. Your life is basically a terrifying game of survival where literally everything out there wants to eat you. Leopards, giant eagles, even other groups of hominids. The only way you survive this nightmare landscape is by sticking together in a tight-knit group. But hanging out in a group creates a completely new, equally stressful set of problems. You have to figure out who is actually in charge, who gets first dibs on the best food, and most importantly, who you can genuinely trust to cover your back when a saber-toothed tiger suddenly jumps out of the bushes. For chimpanzees and baboons, the primary way they establish this vital trust and maintain their complex social hierarchy is through physical grooming. They sit around in the dirt for hours upon hours, meticulously picking bugs, dead skin, and dirt out of each other's fur. This grooming is not just about hygiene. Nobody actually cares about being clean in the wild. It is a physical manifestation of friendship and alliance. If a chimp grooms you, they are essentially saying, "Hey, we are cool, I like you, and I promise not to bite your face off tomorrow." But there is a massive, fatal mathematical limitation to this system. Grooming takes a lot of time. If you want to maintain a strong, reliable alliance with 20 different chimps, you have to spend half your waking life picking through their back hair. Enter evolutionary psychologists who noticed a fascinating, direct correlation between the size of a primate's brain, specifically the neocortex, the wrinkly outer layer, and the size of their social group. Based on the size of the human brain, we can comfortably and effectively maintain about 150 stable social relationships. This is famously known today as Dunbar's number. Up to 150 people, your brain has enough processing power to know exactly who everyone is, how they relate to everyone else, and whether they are a decent, reliable person or a complete backstabbing jerk. But here's the roadblock our ancestors hit. What happens when your tribe gets a little too successful? What happens when you figure out how to cook food, your infant mortality drops, and suddenly your group hits 500 people? The physical grooming system completely, catastrophically collapses. You literally do not have enough hours in the single day to pick bugs off of 500 different people to prove that you are their loyal friend. Without that established trust, a group that large immediately fractures. Extreme paranoia sets in, bitter factions form, and the large tribe violently splits into smaller, much more vulnerable groups. Unless, of course, you can somehow find a way to groom several people at the exact same time, without ever physically touching them. This brings us to the monumental invention of human language. Now, the traditional, arguably boring theory of why human language evolved is that we desperately needed a way to communicate practical, life-or-death information to each other. The idea is that we needed to say things like, "Hey, there is a very large lion over there behind that rock." But evolutionary biologists argue that this survival instruction theory absolutely does not fully explain the immense, overwhelming complexity of our language. You honestly do not need a massive vocabulary and complex syntax just to point out a lion. A very loud, panicked screech and a frantic point in the opposite direction gets the job done incredibly effectively. Animals do it all the time. Instead, we have the gossip theory. The gossip theory suggests that language evolved primarily as a highly efficient form of vocal grooming. Instead of picking lice off your friend for 2 straight hours to bond with them, you could just sit around a fire and chat. You could talk to 3, 4, or even 10 people at the very same time. This was a monumental, world-changing leap in efficiency. It allowed early humans to bond with much larger groups of people, while simultaneously keeping their hands perfectly free to actually do useful stuff, like fashioning sharp weapons or cooking meat. But what exactly were these early humans talking about around that fire? I promise you, they were not discussing quantum physics or the nuances of abstract art. They were talking about each other. They were gossiping. You see, when a group eventually grows past that magic number of 150, you inevitably have to deal with strangers. You are forced to interact with people in your own tribe that you have not interacted with directly. And dealing with strangers is extremely dangerous. How do you know if you can trust Og with your best hunting spear? How do you know if Grog is actually going to share his scavenged berries after you shared your hard-earned mammoth meat with him just yesterday? Because in any cooperative society, the absolute biggest threat is not the lion outside the cave. The biggest threat is the cheater inside the cave, the free rider, the guy who takes the food but magically has a twisted ankle every single time it is his turn to go hunt. If too many people cheat the system, the trust vanishes, and the whole society violently collapses. Early humans desperately needed a way to identify, track, and punish these social cheats before they could do any real damage. And the ultimate solution to that problem was gossip. Gossip acts as a highly sophisticated, incredibly fast reputation tracking system. If Og cowardly runs away during a hunt and leaves you to deal with a boar alone, you do not need everyone in the tribe to personally witness it to know that Og is useless. You just have to survive, get back to camp, and tell 3 people. Those 3 people are going to tell 3 more people, and suddenly, Og's reputation is entirely ruined. The entire tribe knows not to trust him on a hunt, and Og is socially ostracized. Back in the Stone Age, being socially ostracized and kicked out of the group was basically a guaranteed death sentence. Gossip effortlessly answered the most important questions for survival. Who hates whom? Who is sleeping with whom? Who is honest? Who is a complete coward? Because of gossip, you no longer needed to personally interact with someone to definitively know if they were actually trustworthy. You could entirely rely on the collective gossiping intelligence of the tribe. This changes absolutely everything about human evolution. It meant that a group of 1,000 humans could effectively cooperate, trust each other, and function as a single unit. They could coordinate massive, complex hunts that took days of planning. They could easily defend their territory against other groups who had not yet mastered the art of talking behind each other's backs. Gossip was the ultimate scaling mechanism for trust. But the absolute immense power of gossip did not just stop at talking about who stole the berries or who was a bad hunter. Once the human brain became firmly hardwired to discuss the reputations of invisible, absent people, it took a very short, very weird, and very powerful step to start talking about invisible, absent things. Myths, gods, spirits, ancestors, and later down the line, corporations, human rights, and nations. Historians point out that our unique evolutionary ability to gossip about our neighbors perfectly evolved into the ability to gossip about shared fictional entities. Think about a modern megacity like Tokyo, London, or New York. Millions upon millions of people crammed tightly together who have absolutely no idea who each other are. They are not picking lice out of each other's hair. They do not know each other's names, and they probably do not even make eye contact on the subway. Yet they cooperate seamlessly every single day. They stand in orderly lines at the coffee shop, they stop at red lights when they are told to, and they trade completely worthless little pieces of paper for actual physical food. This massive, mind-boggling web of cooperation only works because we all collectively believe in the exact same shared gossip. We gossip about the value of the dollar until it becomes real. We gossip about the authority of the government until it has power. We gossip about the laws of the land until everyone follows them. A corporation is literally just a piece of gossip that a bunch of lawyers wrote down on paper and agreed to believe in. Without our evolutionary ability to talk about things and people that are not directly in front of our faces, none of this vast social architecture could possibly exist. So, the next time you feel vaguely guilty about spilling some harmless tea with your best friend, or you catch yourself mindlessly scrolling through a celebrity drama thread at 2 a.m, cut yourself some slack. You are not being shallow, petty, or toxic. You are actively exercising a highly evolved, multi-million-year-old survival mechanism. That deep-seated, uncontrollable urge to know absolutely everyone else's business is the exact same urge that pulled our ancestors out of the middle of the food chain and aggressively put them in charge of the entire planet. We literally gossiped our way out of the mud in the Stone Age. We gossiped our way into building pyramids, landing on the moon, and connecting the entire globe through the internet. Without gossip, there are no massive cities. There is no complex society. There is no civilization at all. So go ahead, lean in, and tell me exactly what Sarah said to Dave. It is strictly for the good of the human species.